All blockchains have a scalability bottleneck because you're talking about a distributed system where there's some degree of permissionless, some degree of trustlessness. We can talk about where they are on the scale, from zero to Bitcoin, but they're somewhere on there, and they give up something to do that. So in my mind, I think what everybody's doing is essentially building prototypes on a system that is free. Ethereum is free to build on in a sense because you don't pay for, the storage and stuff, but you kind of do because when you're executing these contracts, now you're competing against everybody else who's on the Ethereum system. And in recent times, we've seen those prices go up to tens of dollars. Now, Bitcoin's been criticized for the same thing. Tens of dollars to settle a Bitcoin trade doesn't sound great. Tens of dollars to settle an Ethereum trade doesn't sound great. Here's where I think the distinction is. I think when people build on this Ethereum standard, it's very easy for them to then swap it out with something else, like a private implementation of Ethereum. So let's say, your friend's exchange and 5 other exchanges or 100 other exchanges want to connect together and settle trades on a permissioned, federated network where they all sign off on them. That's really great. And they now don't compete with any other Ethereum use cases. Like, last year we had CryptoKitties, which took over the entire network. Or this year we have DeFi, where people are trading tokens called sushi and pasta and getting totally wrecked on them. Like we have, but it was funny that you mentioned ICOs are over, but they're really not. They've just evolved into this DeFi craze. But in either case, the Ethereum system is a system based on smart contracts, and the more complex the contract, the more the execution cost. So I think what's really interesting is, it is interesting that this is happening. I agree. There's a very interesting movement towards standardizing the trading of things that were previously not traded. Perhaps, a lot of people talk about tokenization, or like fractional ownership of things. Well, there's fractional ownership of art already, right? You even had an interview with a guy from Masterworks, which is all about that, but it's centralized. So is it interesting if it becomes somewhat transparent, somewhat interchangeable and liquid between exchanges? I think it is interesting. But does it happen on Ethereum? I think no, because now it's competing with everything else that's going on there. And basically the issue you have in any blockchain is, as you get more usage, the fees have to go up because it's a constrained resource, right? If it actually is permissionless and I can connect my computer at home to it, then it can't ever be 100,000 transactions a second. It has to be, like you said, that has to happen locally, but it has to be settled eventually on these systems. So the settlement costs go up a lot. Now, if your whole use case, like Bitcoin, is money, then I don't care what the settlement costs are, because I can settle $1 billion and I'm happy to pay $100 for it, or even 1,000, right? The only settlement constraint on Bitcoin, and the only constraint on the scalability, is the depth of market. Because today I can easily buy $1 million of Bitcoin. Tomorrow I can buy 10 million. 5 years from now I can easily buy $1 billion. As long as I can buy it and transact with it, it's fine. It scales, right? It doesn't have to scale in the way that you're talking about, where it has to be, instantaneous settlement of every pizza transaction. It has to scale in some sort of batch settlement fashion, because there are other layers like Lightning Network.